In the quiet, mountain-ringed town of Cedar Ridge, Silas Callahan had carved out a simple, peaceful life. A former artist, he had spent years painting the rugged beauty around him. Craggy cliffs, dense pine forests, and golden meadows stretching far and wide. Age had slowed him down, though, and he'd gradually traded his brushes for quiet evenings on his cabin porch. Through all the changes, one thing remained constant: Boone, his loyal Australian shepherd, who had become more than a companion. Boone was Silas's confidant, protector, and daily comfort. Boone had a way of understanding Silas like no one else, attuned to his moods and unspoken thoughts in ways that went beyond words. Recently, however, Boone's expressive eyes had held a touch of worry, and his behavior shifted from playful to observant. Silas brushed it off, thinking it was just Boone's quirky, overprotective nature, but Silas couldn't ignore his own symptoms. Breathless moments came more frequently, and a strange, heavy fatigue seemed to settle into his bones. Boone noticed it too. Each time Silas tried to push himself or go for one of his long walks, Boone would block his path, nudging him back to rest. Silas would chuckle, ruffle Boone's ears, and ease back into his chair, thankful yet reluctant to admit his loyal friend might be right. One cool autumn morning, as golden light filtered through the trees, Silas felt an unusual heaviness as he sat in his favorite chair. When he tried to stand, a wave of dizziness washed over him, forcing him back down. Boone, resting at his feet, sensed the shift immediately. He began nudging Silas's hand, barking urgently. Then, realizing the severity, Boone bolted out the cabin door and barked wildly. The sound echoed through the crisp air, alerting a nearby neighbor. Alarmed by Boone's barking, the neighbor rushed to Silas's cabin. Finding Silas pale and slumped, the neighbor quickly called for an ambulance. When the paramedics arrived, Boone followed closely, pacing anxiously outside the ambulance, unwilling to leave his friend's side. At Cedar Ridge Medical Center, the staff allowed Boone to stay by Silas's bed, understanding that this loyal dog was more than a pet. He was family. In the sterile hospital room, surrounded by the hum of machines, Boone's presence became Silas's one comfort. He wasn't alone. His steadfast friend was there with him, and for that, he felt a rare sense of peace. After a series of tests, the doctors returned with grim faces. "Mr. Callahan, your heart condition has reached a critical stage," one doctor explained gently. "We're doing all we can, but it's time to think about final arrangements." Silas listened in silence, his hand resting on Boone's soft fur. Though he had always thought of himself as prepared, the thought of leaving Boone stirred a sadness he hadn't anticipated. The medical team arranged a quiet final visit for Boone. Sensing the weight of the moment, Boone settled beside Silas, his usual energy tempered by calm focus. Silas looked down at his loyal companion, feeling both peace and regret, wishing for more time, but comforted that he'd had the chance to say goodbye. But Boone's instincts told him something different. He lifted his head, ears pricked, gaze locked sharply on Silas, as if sensing something no one else could. Boone looked at the door, then back at Silas, his eyes filled with intensity. When the doctor re-entered, Boone barked, a short, commanding bark that broke the silence. The doctor paused, her eyes narrowing in curiosity. Cedar Ridge Medical Center had seen its share of visitors, but Boone's behavior was unique. While most pets settled quietly, Boone moved with purpose, catching everyone's attention. Nurses exchanged glances, puzzled by the dog's behavior. Boone wasn't here for a quiet goodbye. He was trying to communicate something. When Dr. Amelia Hawthorne entered the room, Boone's posture shifted. He moved in front of Silas, his gaze flicking between her and his ailing friend. It was as though Boone sensed something had been missed. Known for her attention to detail, Dr. Hawthorne crouched down to meet Boone's gaze. His intense, steady eyes filled her with a strange urgency. Choosing not to dismiss it as mere loyalty, she took Boone's behavior as a cue to reevaluate Silas's case. Boone followed her to the door and lay in the hallway, watching her intently as she reviewed Silas's initial diagnosis. After carefully examining the details, she ordered additional tests, a decision that puzzled her colleagues. "Dr. Hawthorne, are you sure?" a nurse asked. "Yes, something doesn't add up," she replied, recalling Boone's focused gaze. Hours later, the new tests revealed something remarkable. Silas's initial diagnosis had indeed missed a crucial detail. His condition, while serious, was not terminal. Instead, it was a treatable issue involving a rare but manageable heart irregularity. Boone's instincts had led her to uncover something everyone else had missed. Dr. Hawthorne returned to Silas's room, where Boone waited calmly. The dog's posture seemed to communicate a quiet confidence, as if he already knew. "Mr. Callahan," she said gently, "we have some new information. Your condition is treatable. It won't be an easy road, but with the right care, you have a fighting chance." Silas looked at her in stunned silence, his hand on Boone's head. The news was a miracle, and he let it sink in, gratitude mingling with disbelief. As the medical team prepared for his treatment, Boone stayed close, watching each movement as if overseeing the process. To the doctors and nurses, Boone had transformed from a comforting presence into something more, a guardian with purpose. Silas, who'd once chuckled at the idea of his dog's sixth sense, now saw Boone in a new light, feeling a deep bond with this animal who had, in a very real sense, saved his life. In the weeks that followed, Silas's life took on a renewed sense of purpose. The doctors crafted a detailed treatment plan, closely monitoring his heart's response. Boone remained a constant presence at his side, his steady gaze unwavering as Silas underwent each stage of his care. The hospital staff grew accustomed to Boone, charmed by his loyalty and calm demeanor. For Silas, who had resigned himself to an uncertain future, this new chapter was a gift. He began to dream again, even of picking up a paintbrush or exploring the trails with Boone once he was strong enough. Each day felt like a gift, an opportunity made possible by Boone's loyalty. After several months, Silas finally felt strong enough to go outside. Boone trotted alongside him as they took their familiar path through the pines, his tail wagging with excitement. Silas breathed in the crisp autumn air, each breath filling him with peace he hadn't felt in years. When they reached a clearing, Silas paused, soaking in the golden light streaming through the trees. Boone sat at his side, steady and encouraging, sharing the beauty of the moment. With his strength returning, Silas felt the old urge to paint again. He set up his easel on the cabin porch, his hands moving instinctively, each brushstroke reclaiming parts of his past self. Boone sat nearby, grounding Silas as he poured his gratitude into every scene he painted. The colors on his canvas captured the world they shared, vibrant depictions of Cedar Ridge, painted through the lens of his second chance. Soon, neighbors stopped by, drawn to his artwork and the story behind it. Boone, however, became the center of attention. Friends and strangers marveled at the dog who had played a role in saving Silas's life. Silas watched with pride as Boone received the admiration he deserved. Their bond had become a testament to resilience and quiet strength. Each day with Boone reminded Silas of the life he had nearly lost and the miracle that had brought him back. For Boone, who stayed close, it seemed he knew his work was complete, for now. With Silas at his side, Boone appeared content, his eyes bright with the quiet joy of knowing he'd been there when his friend needed him most.